It never,
Oh.
I wouldn't get any better.
Wouldn't get any better.
Right. Sounds like it wouldn't do me good.
My doctor said,
All right, Commissioner, you were
a
lying.
year.
Right, thank you.
Doesn't really see, really fall. 6 months. 4.
Well, welcome to the October 3rd meeting of the Riley County Commission. Please join in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What's that?
Something's different.
It's taller.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I noticed, because usually.
we got new bases.
Where is it? I don't know. I think it is-
The other was gold.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think the others were more
It's
gold.
taller.
Yeah, the others were more gold. Very good, Commissioner Howard.
It was a test, gentlemen. I must have passed that one. Okay, good deal.
It's Sunday morning.
I looked at that and I thought something's different.
Very
But
observant.
after you do this for 3.5 years, it becomes natural, I guess.
I saw it, but I was like, no, I'm okay. It's okay. I'm getting shorter.
Public comments. Gary.
Sure you didn't lower your chairs.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, and they do get messed with a lot. That could be too, yeah. Then
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Terry Oles. I live at 3308 Frontier Circle here in Manhattan. I have 2 issues that I want to bring to your attention and hopefully to some of the citizens' attentions as well. The first is the fact that I'm fairly certain that annually or a couple times a year, you guys have meetings, what they call, I believe, joint meetings with other agencies or other city school district. But you also have a meeting with the House of Representatives and the Senate representative for this area. I would encourage you, since the legislative session is going to start up in January, to discuss among yourselves and consider the makeup of Rcpd board. It, in fact, does not represent the people because of the appointed officials on it. We need to have a board that has all elected officials like it was at one time. And the reason that's important is because elected officials represent the people. Appointed officials do not represent the people. They do not speak for the people because they are not elected. They cannot speak for the people because they are not elected. And that's an important thing to know, because Rcpd board, made up of some elected officials and some appointed officials, they do the best they can with what they have. But there's really no accountability to the people, because if decisions are made that the people don't like, what are they to do? They can't remove an appointed first person. They can only remove an elected person at the next election, which is appropriate, which is the way it's intended. Now, I've been in the community long enough, and many of you have as well, to know that it used to be that way. And somehow or other, and I don't remember the history, and perhaps some of you do, somehow it swung the other way. And it was probably full of good intentions by people who thought it was best. But it's really not best, because it doesn't represent the people. The Rcpd budget, as you know, is somewhere at 25 million or 28 million. I don't remember what it was. And that's going to continue to grow, just as the county and the city and the school districts budget is going to continue to grow. But the question isn't will it grow, because that answer is always yes. The question is how much it will grow. And how much it will grow is dependent on the elected officials. And that's what needs to happen. So I would encourage you, and I don't know when that occurs, but discuss formally among yourselves, put it on your agenda, discuss it among the House of Representatives, Mike Dotson, I don't even know who the Sidney Carlin and Tom Hawk, about what could be done to get that board back. I don't even know if it took legislation to swing it the other way. My recollection was it didn't. Somehow it was just a notion. So if it can be changed that way, perhaps it would be changed the other way. So one of the primary people that I would encourage you to talk with or board is the city. And I plan to discuss this and have already at least once with the city saying, look, you need to take a real hard look at this. All of you who represent this county government need to be on that board, as well as an appropriate number, all of them perhaps, of the city commission need to be on that same board. Now, granted, I know you love meetings, but that's why we pay you the big bucks, so to speak. So that's one thing I'd like you to consider as a citizen. I don't know that I'm the only person that's ever brought that up, but surely there are others that realize that representative government is extremely important. It's over the top important, and it's not happening with the RCPD board. I'm not speaking to the function and purpose and success of RCPD itself. I'm just talking about the board, and nothing against those people who are volunteers. You know, God love them. They spend a lot of time and they do the best they can, but there's no accountability, and we can't continue to have these type of increases. Now, I know I'm a little out of order, but if you bear with me because I don't have time to stick around for the 9:20 presentation, but I want to discuss briefly the budget. Once again, I want to encourage you, since this thing's a done deal for the most part, or at least I've never seen much change in them. They might come down a little bit, but then there's always next year, and there's next year after that. It's kind of like the K-State football season. There's always another season. And that is true in budgeting. So as one person representing hopefully others that are thinking the same way, you know, I'm resolved to the fact that budgets are going to increase. Your responsibility is how much they will increase. Your responsibility is to understand the budget fully, which I understand that takes a couple of years to even get up to speed on it. But it's a huge responsibility. I would consider it your primary responsibility. Roads and bridges, yeah, all those infrastructure things are important, but it all boils down to having the money. I understand that the RC or the county budget, like the city budget, is made up of different revenue streams. And also, when you do budgeting, where do you start from? Do you start from the previous year's budget? Well, you really can't, because it's not fully spent. So you have to do some guesstimations of adjustments of what it's going to be, what it's going to cost. So I would encourage you, as you come on the next year, whenever you start that process, probably January 2nd, if I had to guess, take a look at that, because we can't continue to have these increases. Even if you kept the mill levy flat with the increase in appraisal, it's painful. Now, who is it painful to? It's not so painful to the earners. You know, like myself, I can pay my additional taxes at this point in time, but I have in-laws that just moved here, and there's more and more folks who are moving to Manhattan that are in the senior citizen category, and you've got to be careful. You've got to watch out for those folks. And I know it's a tough task, and I just would encourage you to find ways to keep the mill levy flat, or do what Geary County did and drop it dramatically. But they did it because they finally got somebody who could look at the numbers and crunch the numbers well enough to figure out they were overtaxing. They were charging too much to the taxpayers. So the question is, are you all doing the same? Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Yep. Check that one. It doesn't work again.
Yeah, this works.
Another public comment, so commissioners. Excuse me.
Good morning. Last Thursday after a meeting, I stopped by Amanda's office in the planning department to discuss further land searches as search for possible lagoon location in Keats. We discussed having a community meeting in Keats to keep them informed of our progress. And I also suggested that we widen the invitations to include other property owners around the area, so that they would have more information on the critical situation that we face. I also stopped in to see Anna Burson in the appraiser's office to discuss the bidding process for the vehicle. And she said they've just received an okay from the state, but didn't have any further information on what it would be delivered. So I guess that's underway. Later that afternoon, I attended a special law board meeting that included an executive session involving the search for the police director. Time frame and process was discussed and tentatively set. And another meeting is scheduled for today here in the commission chambers, if anyone wants to attend. Of course, most of it will be executive sessions. So. And then we have next Monday if needed. So it's a pretty robust itinerary we have going forward. This weekend, I attended the K-State football game on Saturday. Reviewed the agenda board packet for today's meeting and prepared some information for the law board search process. That's fun.
Okay, Thursday post meeting, I met with Elizabeth Ward, Riley County Human Resources Manager, to discuss the 2022 department head evaluation process and the procedures moving forward to accomplish that. And it occurred to me, man, we are just right on the precipice of that. Kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because I know we've been talking about it, and I've been really talking about it myself for 3+ years. So she's got some stuff in the works. She'll be getting with both of you individually as well to figure out how and what we're going to do with that. And it's streamlined a little bit. So I think it's going to work better. So
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
we have to do department head evaluations.
Right.
in
Oh,
December.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Evaluation.
And that's been a very, in my opinion, a very not streamlined process. I'm trying to find the right adjective. I think we're doing more with that than we need to in any given time. And I think both of you going through that for the first time last year felt the same way.
Yeah.
Different commissions go different directions with that. It'll probably change again, but I think the process we're putting into place kind of streamlines the things that we work with those department heads on and need them to work on, not so much what they do interdepartmentally.
Yeah.
And some of those, even a few of those on her list, were more, I think, still human resource than commission versus department head. So you'll probably have some thoughts and some stuff on that, but that process is well in the works as we speak. So Thursday afternoon, I also met with members of the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce, their Military Relations Committee, members of the Governor's Military Council, as well as members of the City of Manhattan and Potawatomi County, to discuss the upcoming trip to Washington, D.C. next week. It's already here too, for the AUSA conference. Had a really good dialogue on the items we need to be focused on, what the itinerary is going to be, and discuss each concerns each entity within that group involves, and how it kind of relays back to the military, and how we actually discuss those with the specific and appropriate officials that will be available at the event. So really looking forward to representing Riley County this year at that conference. I know it's been a while since we've been there. Everybody seems excited to have us on board again. So we'll see how it goes. I'll come back with a report for sure. Thursday evening as well, I attended a special meeting of the Riley County Law Board. We discussed an executive session, our continued work and dialogue to get a permanent director in place for the agency. And say little by little, we are getting there, and the process is going to work to accomplish that. And I'm very confident we've got the right person. Just need to go through the procedural things, and I'm very, very confident they'll be in place before the end of the year, well in advance of the end of the year. And I think we're, to be honest with you, I think we're doing this the right way. I'm doing it internal has saved a whole bunch of resources and a whole bunch of money in accomplishing that. I'll feel good about that once it's done. Saturday afternoon, I attended the annual Fall Festival over in the city of Ogden. It was great to see the event return to normal from the last couple of years. A lot more vendors, a lot more games, a lot more events, a lot more food. Not that I needed any of that, which I didn't. I managed to just smell and just take it all in and just left it at that. There were a lot more people in attendance. It looked like there were more people in attendance when I was there mid-afternoon that maybe lived there. I don't know. It just kind of seemed that way. Had some really good live music. Absolutely beautiful afternoon. Maybe a tad bit warm, but it was pretty much over on the other side, so it was covered. But It was really good to have this event. They like doing that every year, and yeah, it went very, very well. So congratulations goes out once again to our #1 ranked 6A class football team. Absolutely destroyed Emporia. Stay unbeaten at 5-0. Also congratulations to K-State, who I would sluggishly is the word I'm using.
Second quarter.
Team's kind of a light switch. When it's on, they're on. When it's off, it's kind of dark. But they did what they needed to do, and Tech's not a bad squad either. But they won 37-28, and I'm thinking I won this week.
He was spot on.
Exactly.
Exactly. Almost. He was 2 points off.
2 weeks in a row.
I was 35
Was Clancy coming back? Thursday.
17.
You were 5 points off.
Okay. Well, I had text.
Everyone was pretty close.
Yeah,
Most were pretty close. Everyone was pretty close. It was a hard fought week,
It was.
but I'm not sure his little counts does it. I mean,
Yeah.
rotation.
I know.
Pinch hitter is that count?
He doesn't count for Clancy.
Hey, when Tracy has to do it Thursday, tell him I set the standard for him.
Yeah, right.
Well, when it goes wrong, he's going to blame you anyway. So yeah, no big deal there. So
Yeah.
well,
Greg missed it by
4-1.
2. He was 35-28.
Wow.
We'll go buy a lottery ticket. That'll be
Close but no cigar, Commissioner Ford.
all right. One of these days. All right.
One more vote, you can eliminate the problem, though.
That's clear. That's clear. I was going to say evaluations are coming up, but that didn't work for you. All right. Well, I wanted to lastly just point out something because it's been kind of a theme throughout the fall here, but there's pros and cons to this, but it's been good to see all the energy and enthusiasm and the vibes. We've had 4 sold out football games this year. Lots of things happening. Feels like normal again. Feels like a little bit more than normal again. So I get frustrated sometimes with traffic and waiting in lines. And like I said, there's some cons, but I also think that we get into the beginning of the year and we see what revenues and stuff look like. We should be pretty happy, I would think. So hotels have been a high occupancy rate. A lot of stuff's been going on. It's just good. So thought I'd just point that out this morning. So that's all I've got.
All right. Well, Thursday after a meeting, the contractor is going to be starting the remodeling in our bathroom next week. Spends the weekend clearing stuff out because also there's room below it. The project tends to grow. So the room below, because they've got to tear into the ceiling. So we're going to go ahead and redo that room while we're at it. So we're going to have a mess for several weeks. And then Saturday, talk about the traffic. Forget about that. We had a wedding to go to in Ozaki. And I was watching as long as until the last minute to watch after we scored that last touchdown. Okay, get the car. So as timing is, so as we get to Manhattan, is when the traffic is leaving the game. We still made it there in time, but not as early as we thought because we got slow traffic through Manhattan.
Yeah, it is.
But like I said, the wedding it was in an outside venue in Osaka, and the weather was great. Saw some family members that hadn't seen in a while. And we all agreed, especially one of my nephews and my brothers, all of our kids, my grandkids said we need to start having some other meetings. The only time we see each other is at weddings and funerals the last few years. We need to do something about that. So other than that, I'm ready to go.
No business, commissioners. Any changes to the minutes? Get a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from our September 30th meeting, 29th meeting.
No, second.
The moved and seconded to approve the meeting, the minutes of the September 29th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
On the tentative agenda, so commissioners. And I guess since Mr. Olds brought it up, and it's something that we just addressed, was the law board process that we have and questions. He's right in history. That's always been the ebbs and flows of it. You know, previous city and county commissioners felt strongly it should be elected officials because they're accountable and they are citizens as well, as the statute says, you know, appointed citizens. So I think it's something you need to think about if it's something you want to place on the agenda again, as he suggested, you know, to have that type of dialogue, or if you're comfortable moving forward with how you are, because the way we're moving forward is opposite of what people that would agree with Mr. Olds agree. But that is a sentiment I've been through in my long tenure here, where elected officials sat here and the city felt, you know, we're the only ones that are accountable. If people don't like how our Rcpd is going, or the city or the county, they elect us. So you folks drive it.
And I remember when, several years ago, when before it had always been all the elected officials, people were saying, well, the write-up of it says citizens, so we need other people in it. So they said, oh, okay, well, let's put other people in it.
And that's been the ebbs and flows.
And it's kind of, you know, now it's, and I don't know how big it's going back and forth, but I would think need to put it on the city county agenda. It doesn't, you know, we need to both be going the same direction, I would think.
Well, wasn't there a time when, I can't quite remember, when there was a big citizen cry for more actual citizens, not
Right.
elected citizens. So that's when it changed.
Yeah.
I can't remember when that was.
It's been, what, 6 or 8 years ago.
That is generally the public outcry. The concern of the elected is usually less publicly vocal and more from individuals that go to the electeds and feel that way, or the elected's perception as well. And many times the elected saying, well, just because I'm elected doesn't mean I'm not a citizen. I'm still a citizen. So
I think the bigger issue for me, and having the opportunity to serve for 2 years now, isn't necessarily the makeup of the board specifically. It's really who's responsible for the budget and the taxing authority. And the law board itself and the agency itself doesn't have a taxing authority. That gets pushed off onto 2 other entities, whether we like it or not. Somewhere in the midst of that, there needs to be at least transparency there. I don't think you'll ever work across broad lines to fix the issue with the 7-member board, whether they're all elected, not all elected. Much like our discussion with the evaluation processes, different people have a different train of thought. But the taxing authority, I believe the city of Manhattan and the county should have a voice in that process. And that's where you get a little bit more of your taxation with representation, which really at the end of the day, elected or not elected, is the real challenge and the issue for most people. They don't feel like they're paying for it technically, whether it's through the county or through the city, and they don't feel that part's being represented, whether the representative is elected or not. Something in that process needs to be evaluated and changed, in my opinion.
Well, and I can say, because like I say, I remember how many years ago it was when it was, you know, it had been all the elected officials. And at the time I was, well, you know, it said the regulation doesn't say there's only this many elected officials and then other citizens. Why aren't other citizens involved? You know, on the other side of it now, I can see, wait a minute, these non-elected people that a lot of people don't even know who they are the ones making that huge budget decision that, you know, it ought to be on our heads.
yeah,
I can see it. I'm tending to my mind's leaning the other way from what it used to be.
well, and that's a common complaint through the decades now that I've been here is, you know, the other armies, well, the law board should all be elected. Well, other than changing the legislation, that's one way to accomplish that, is appoint all electeds to it, even though they're not an elected, because that would be a huge undertaking, and I'm not so sure how it does. Elected.
Separate election.
Yeah.
A separate election, and so that has always been discussion. So you can do it this way through appointment rather than changing legislation, but
But
I agree, but
the issue with that,
representation.
the issue with that is still taxation with representation. We can do that any way we want to do that. You can elect 7 new people on there, but you know, if they don't have the authority to do that and it still goes to 2 other entities, those 2 other entities.
Well, no, when you did that, they would have that. If you made that legislative change, they'd be a separate taxing entity then with their own separate mill levy and total budget. But no, I agree the taxation with representation is a key issue.
Well, and right now we've got about 4-3 as far as elected to citizens.
Yeah.
So we can, we could. Yeah, but it's pretty good mix at this point, but
But that'll change in 2 years.
yeah, it'll change
Um,
next year.
At the end of the year, yeah.
This year.
So,
So no matter how you look at that entity, the appropriations that come from that, whether it's admin, operations, administrative, buildings, maintenance, so on and so forth, still come from two separate entities that don't have, any given year, one has a little bit more than the other one. I guess that's the balance, but they're still having to basically do that anyway, whether they want to or not, because of the makeup of that particular board. And that, if I'm not mistaken, over the last 2 years, that budget's gone up about 12%. That has a massive effect to each entity, whether it's the city, whether it's the county. And there's some other challenges involved in that at this particular point in time too. So I still say you need to tackle that one first, and then your makeup of the board might get a little bit easier. I don't know. Maybe not, but at least you have that part of it figured out.
And the one thing, and I don't know how much input they have, but I know there is the Citizens Advisory Board. It's been set up so other people, people. And I don't know how much do they come to the board?
They do. They give it up. There's several of them, and
Because I've been to a couple of their meetings.
they give regular
quarterly,
updates.
I think it is.
And they're intricately involved with their board and the members of, each of the other entities, including Rcpd. So there's interaction there for sure.
So that there is, like I say, there is citizen input
Yeah.
through that channel, I think.
We had 3 and 3, that's an attorney
Yeah.
elected.
And if you did that, you could even, if the consensus was to go more to all elected officials appointed on their through the current method, then you could even implement more of those citizens for more citizen input, more different types of citizen advisory boards that maybe cover different segments, because there are different segments, have different concerns. But I guess my question is, would you like to put it on the agenda for a discussion item? Because I think that was Gary's request, is, just not a off the cuff discussion, something to where the public, so where we know there's another group that feels very strongly the other side of this issue. And that's kind of what got us on our current track. But, that's always my concern in this role over the decades, is the squeaky wheel gets greased, so it's only the one you hear about that you really discuss at the time, and you don't really think about the other side. And so it's whatever the board wants. And if you don't want to put it on, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Probably wouldn't hurt to have it on top to see if we get any other responses. Put something on the agenda, you think? I don't know.
That's fine with me. I'm not. I guess I'm a little.
Kind of late in the game to change
I'm a
it
little
this year.
I'm a little pessimistic at this point in time as to what we're really going to gain out of that, because the conversation always exists. It's
I'm fine with not putting it on. I'm just asking.
But then again, as we get into the end of the year, each entity is going to be, making new appointments or making appointments. Maybe they're not going to all necessarily be new. So maybe bringing the dialogue up now just kind of helps in that process too. So there's both. I don't know what else we've got really going on that would be of larger priority at this point in time. So,
We have the new questionnaire that we're going to use. And I don't know if the city's got has changed theirs in any way. I don't think so.
And maybe it'd be a good discussion to have the law.
That we should all be on the same page or something.
Like that, but I don't think we should make a decision ourselves. It needs to be city and the county both going the same direction.
So
See what their, sometime have a meeting with them to see what their thoughts are on it.
I'll wait till I hear from you commissioners. You might want to visit with the county attorney and city officials to see kind of their feeling. And if you think it warrants more discussion, then let me know and we'll put it on the agenda. That's okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay with the board?
Yeah.
That'll work.
I just wanted to bring it up since it was asked by a resident.
9 o'clock.
I don't know if Craig.
No. Craig.
Good morning, Commissioners. Craig Cox, Deputy County Counselor. I sent you commissioners a couple of emails yesterday afternoon. I didn't know if you had a chance to see them or not. I thought I would just, they weren't burning issues, but there were things I was working on last week that had come up. One was concerning a NACO letter that Commissioner Ford had received from the KEC, where NACO was requesting counties to contact their local federal congressman in regards to the U.S. Treasury's administrative flexibility to administer COVID funds. After I talked with Commissioner Ford about it, I talked with Rcpd. He suggested I contact Widow Bryan, since they have been helping the county with our dealing with those funds. I sent an email to Matthew Hansen at Widow Bryan. He got back with me. I included his email in the email string I provided you yesterday. He basically said that that this was a fight between Treasury and Congress. He thought that it was interesting that both entities are controlled by the same party, so he thought it was an area of dirty laundry, and that he thought it was going to get resolved, and it really didn't require any attention from local commissions to take the time and effort to contact their local congressman or to write a letter. So I forwarded that on to you just to give you that information, and wanted to update you on that.
Just from my perspective, once again, I'm skeptical. I just know on our end, we've kind of laid out what we're going to do with those funds and the process that we're going to do with them, but it's going to take some time. And it's not like it's going to be done at the end of the year, but that was the whole point of this, to give that quote unquote flexibility and to allow for some time to develop what you would hope would be a better plan, and trying to use those funds to both get through recovery and to take care of some challenges that I think local units of government and tribals and municipalities tend to have. And it's one time, and this is something that isn't going to ever happen again. I just don't, or at least in our lifetimes, for sure. So, and like I said, we've laid ours out to do something very, very important, but very, very expensive. And it's going to be a process, and it's going to take some time. And don't want all these things to go away in the midst of trying to do that, because then you're left with, how do you do it, or do you do it at all at that point in time? And I don't want to get into that particular scenario if all possible. So still think it's something to just kind of keep an eye on. But I trust Widow Bryant's. I think that's one of the smartest things we did during the outbreak of this pandemic, is to have them on retainer to deal with not just funds in real time, but things just like this. They really have their thumb on the pulse. So, and he may be right. It may be an administrative type of thing at this point in time, and elections could change that for the better or for worse too. So I just think it's something we just need to be thinking about, but we don't necessarily have to go off the deep end at this point in time.
I've seen, on one hand, you think that they've already set the rules. Why would you change them in the middle? But we know how things happen in DC.
Well, and this is a different process. Typically they lay out all the allocations and stuff first, and then they wait to put all those protocols in. They did a complete reverse this time. And usually there's a very short timeline with it. This one, some instances, stretched all the way out to 2026. So, it seemed really, really odd to do it completely opposite for a change, and then say, no, we really didn't like what we did on the front end. But yeah, I'm always skeptical about those things. That's just me by nature.
Common sense say you shouldn't change in the middle, but that doesn't count.
Correct.
In DC, it seems. Right.
My second email I sent to you, commissioners, was something that you looked at last Thursday when John Elman came in to certify some unpaid utility fees. And those fees involved 5241 Terra Heights. And John had an account history there, and it was noted that in that history there was 2 tax payments. And there was some there was some question, the commissioners had about what that meant and have that play into the utilities. And so I had my legal assistant, Jen Chenway, check the individual's tax payment history. And those, like I said on my email, those two payments not only paid the 2021 taxes from last year, but also the 2021 utilities that Public Works has certified against her last year. And my only thought is it must be the way she likes to pay her utilities. It's kind of an expensive way to do it, but I would expect that the same thing will happen with this certification, is that it's put on the tax rolls, and when she gets her tax bill, she'll pay her first and second half, and that will pick up those utilities and they'll get paid. But those payments did pick up the certifications from last year. So it's interesting. It's interesting. We have people wait to pay their taxes 5 years late until I take them to court and make them pay them. It's one way to do it, but it's more expensive. And any questions on that item? And my tax statement just leads me into my last item. I brought up tax sales. And we Jana did a summary figures from the last tax sale, and it's interesting. Each tax sale, I say, had its own personality, and the numbers that I have you look at, that very top number. We started out with 100 properties. By the time we went to file the first of 2022 with working on demand letters, we reduced that number from 100 to 42. And then if you drop down to below that second blue line, it says total properties in the auction. During the course of the case, when we filed in January to the end of June, we had reduced the 42 down to 25, which means all those taxes had been paid from that original amount of 100 down to 25. We sold all the two properties in the sale. There's two lots in Ardmore, on Ardmore Street. I don't know what addition that is, but there's two lots there we didn't sell. The tax auction generated a little over $88,000. The very bottom box shows you how that amount of money split out. Part of that $88,000 is when there's a successful bidder, he pays us his bid amount, but in addition, he pays upfront the cost of his deed that we have to follow to give him the property. And so out of that $88,542 went to filing the deeds. We got $27,000, over $27,000 in taxes. And we had a good sale because we generated $60,000 in excess of taxes. And we're now in the process of contacting those taxpayers and getting those excess funds distributed to them, which always surprises most taxpayers when we contact them that they're going to get money when they didn't pay their taxes. I find that I've always found it to be an interesting concept, but that's what the statute says, is that taxpayer gets any excess that would be generated at the tax auction. So
Was that on all the properties, or was it on one in particular?
I always track them, and if you want a real specific tracking, I can have Janet get it to you, but we sold quite a few over tax, and there were a number we sold below tax. But in the last few years, I would say we sold more property in excess of tax than those below tax. So
These numbers include the one that got taken back. But
yeah, I don't know that. It could be. I never thought about that coming down this morning. And that was a $6,700 refund. I mean, that property went for $6,700. Now I tell you, that was up in Grand Mirror, and so that was below tax. That was below tax. That sale was below tax. Yeah. And I will announce that we've got that all completed and the refund back to that buyer, and everything's been adjusted.
And then you had your meeting with the
Title.
We played telephone tag last week, and so when I'm done here, we'll meet by phone, and it's gonna be an in-person meeting, not a phone conversation. So we're gonna schedule a meeting this week, but do that today. So, yes. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Next Commissioner, 080-2023, Willie County, budget hearing.
I guess so.
I went down and looked at the dates, and I went, oh.
I rarely look at this.
Well, we're trying to check that. Are they coming in? Are they coming up this month? I go, well, that's not a first. Oh.
Well, this is a busy month, but, you know, I don't know if you have this problem. Like every meeting I go to, or instead of for, they all meet the first week of the month. And then
That's
after
what it
that,
is. This month, I don't have hardly any this week, next week.
yeah, this, I mean, I've got all these meetings this week and,
Yeah, they seem to.
yes.
Then, I'd say last, of course, last, kind of,
They're very hardly in there, yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's another weeks in a month. Not only this, I have.
No, I've got a list.
Oh, did I win the score last week too?
I think, yeah, I remember because you and I were the only two.
Yeah, I know, and
You were supposed to.
I didn't know I won it. I didn't know I won it last.
Yeah, but you were.
You know,
Closer.
we went to the game. We've got tickets this year, and I'm fairly comfortable. I'm right about this. I mean, I even watched the beginning of the Oklahoma game last week. You know, every game we played this year, we've won the toss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I almost said it. I don't want to jinx it, you know, but you know that every game this season, we've won the corn toss.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
That's quite a streak.
So
Are we calling the same thing like heads every time? If so, that could.
Well, but you know, at home, the visiting team makes a call, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talking about sluggish, we were at the Chiefs last night a little bit.
yeah, I watched it.
No, you're worried about it. I mean, talk about K-State being sluggish on Saturday. We were kind of sluggish at times.
Yeah, I saw the first half.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first half was nothing but sluggish there.
Well, that's true.
Um,
You know, I missed the very start of the game.
they did something. The Chiefs did something differently offensively than they've done here in recent times.
But what happened with the initial kickoff? Did Tampa, they fumble or something? Or-
Yeah, they.
And we recovered it.
We kicked off, but they fumbled.
Okay, I've heard that.
Tight end.
You know, the post game was, you know, there was that kickoff mishap, and from there the Chiefs never
No, they
went
never
back.
really did. I mean, I think they kind of let up a little bit and let kind of second team kind of start playing a little bit, but
You know, I'm real impressed with that new runner they got. That 7th round draft
he
pick.
doesn't look like he's all that big, but
But boy, he can lower his head and just go.
Just go. It's not like-
I think he's making the other running back kind of a little nervous too, and they ran the football last night.
But to the credit, they both have different styles. I mean, this guy, he just lowers his head and goes, you know, and Solaire kind of,
Guys is outweighed by 100 pounds.
Kind of like Deuce Vaughn trying to block it against the line.
Oh, yeah, like 5 people. And it's just like.
He does. He gets down below and knocks
well,
it down.
it's all leverage. That's what it is.
It is.
Leverage. You know,
They are too thick up off the ground. I mean, I guess you can do that. Yeah.
years ago, this is years ago, when Howard Cosell was calling Monday Night Football. The Washington Redskins back then had this real small safety, you know, and I always see, well, how can you guard those big, tall, you know?
Oh,
and
Darryl Green.
was that the safety? And he said, you know what? They need 2 legs to run. I just yank up one of their legs and they can't go anywhere. You remember that? He was
Played in the Hall of Fame, too.
What, he was about 5'8"?
Yeah, it was 5'7".
He was
Good, mean.
I thought that best touchdown of the Chiefs was when the center made the
Yeah.
touchdown. Well, what did they do?
Yeah.
He grabbed the ball.
I was amazed at that little flip pass that Mahomes
Oh, yeah,
went
that
over
was-
everybody. And I think Clyde Allaire was surprised. Oh my God, it's the ball.
And wasn't he about on the 2-yard line?
Yeah, he was almost back.
Yeah.
He literally was right on the line of scrimmage.
It was almost like a basketball shot. It wasn't a pass. It was a
Well, remember
basketball shot.
Colin Klein's famous jump pass?
Yeah.
Along those lines.
That was against Miami, wasn't it?
We did it a couple of different times. Yeah.
That was the birth of the Wildcat.
No, they've been using that before, way before that. Yeah. They used the Wildcat a couple of times when Darren Sproles was here.
I can see that.
You know, that goes back a ways.
I do like the way Andy Reid invents plays. Like you say, that one touchdown, you know, I mean, at home,
He said at halftime, they were talking to the announcer was talking about the play, and he's like, yeah, that one's not one we designed. And he literally was on the line, and the NFL rule is every part of the rest of your body, including the ball, can be past it as long as your feet is either on or behind it. And I mean, I thought it was a penalty myself, but
I like Horace that was it Brooks, the juggling act
Mhm.
for the touchdown.
That was a great catch.
Yeah.
It was.
He had to have
In the middle, he
concentration on
kept
that
his
catch.
concentration, then spun around the guy and so.
well, I thought he intentionally lunged into the end zone to make sure he just got there quicker than later.
it's funny how, you know, as an athlete, you have to make a split decision like that, you know, and
It's kind of instinct.
it is.
It is. It's
It
kind of
really
instinct.
is.
I'm sure that after just juggling it like that, he was afraid if you got hit one side or the other,
Yeah.
he could drop it. So let's take control. Go in.
Well, you know, one time Deuce had a pretty good run, and at the end he slid. And when he could have got, and I said, I was with my son. I said, I wonder why he did that. And he said, Dad, he was worried if he got hit, he might fumble it. So, you know, he just went down.
That 69-yard run.
That makes it.
He's number 3 right now in FBS and yardage. I don't know what he is in all-purpose yardage, but rushing yards. Pretty good. Good stuff. Morning, sir.
I'm filling in Captain Steer today. He's been
Okay.
out, so.
I'm surprised that the all-purpose yardage. Like 16. Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had that in the scoreboard Saturday. You know, it's the top 3 records. You know,
Darren Sproles got to be number 1.
no, he's not for all purpose. No, it was just Matt Heron or
Back here.
Darren was number 2. Just shocked me, and then he played from like the late 60s. You know?
He was like, he's still number 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like something else.
I haven't looked, I thought it should be like K-State side, but I still remember a picture of this. Yeah, but he was a little guy
He
too.
was like 5'4".
Yeah, but they had a picture of him. They get the goal line, he just dive over and they had a picture of the end zone. All you see is helmet and shoulder pads because he's absolutely perfectly parallel as he's diving over the lines.
But yeah, I was
He was
surprised.
fun because we'd all yell, take it back, Mac.
I thought it was going to be Darren. I was just really surprised by that. Now I don't know how close. You know, it may be close.
Well, and come to think of it, I guess Darren didn't run a lot of, he did kind of early, I guess, ran a lot of punt returns, but senior year, he didn't.
He had 40.
And what was that phrase?
So
Take it back, Mac, take it back.
technically, he only really had.
Where he returned
his red
punts
shirt.
and-
Oh, yeah, he was just like, shoo. He was fast, short, and he'd go in and out underneath people's legs and back there. And he's still number 1 on yardage.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
All,
running.
all-purpose yardage.
All-purpose
yeah.
yardage.
Go back to the 60s.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
68, 68.
It was always. That was before Ben Gibson.
No, that was cool. Vince Gibson.
Yeah.
But, and, Lynn Dickey was quarterback. Larry Brown was friend.
Larry Brown.
Is that in the midst of them going from Memorial Stadium to new stadium? I
Yeah,
don't know what I mean.
I wonder what year that happened.
it was on the
69,
grass.
I think was the first year.
What was it?
We used to
They've
sit up
been
on the
the-
grass up where the west side is.
Remember Vince was Mr. K-State, everything purple.
Yeah, we're gonna win.
Clarence Scott was on there.
Good morning, Commissioners. Are you ready? Good morning. Darrell Levy, Budget and Finance Officer, and we are here to do the 2023 Valley County public hearing for the budget. I don't know, we have to wait for people or if I just go ahead and speak.
What? It's up to the chair, but the
Yeah.
chair eventually needs to open the
Yeah.
public hearing.
And I don't know if you have comments to open it up with. Or-
We did make a change on one of the fire district. Lowered it from the 8.153 and their ad valorem taxes required to a 7.663. That was due on a timing issue on advertisement of the R&R and the actual hearing. So we dropped to last year's rate. And it's just some capital funds that try to pull forward. So we're operationally, we're fine with that. Talk to Russell and we're fine with that. If you look at the county budget, our ad valorem expenses are still the same. They were at 30 million. 426,513, leading our mill rate the exact same 42,2211 as we put in our R&R. So everything else is a little bit the same. The total budget dollar authority dropped because some locations like to put all your transfers in and out of everything. Here it is not necessary, and I had put them in. So the ARPA funds and Fed fund things that I would put in and out aren't necessary to do. So that dropped it from a 94 million to an $80 million total budget.
And I'd probably make the assumption that that probably better reflects the total overall ad valorem instead of just
Yeah,
everything in general, yeah.
Yeah, it actually makes it look better, and your increase in your total budget looks better without all those extra transfers in there. And again, I worked with the auditors. That was their suggestion, actually. So
and do we need separate public hearings for each of these two for the county and the fire?
I think it'd be beneficial.
Okay. Now we'll open the public hearing for the county budget now in public comments. Go ahead and line up. No public comments, we close the public comment or public hearing for the county budget and open the public hearing for the fire district budget. Any public comments?
I just have a question.
Sure.
When you talked about lowering the fire district budget from this to this, will you explain it better for me? Because I'm confused.
well, we have to have 10 days of publishing. Now we did 8 days of publishing
Okay,
on their particular line item.
okay.
So we had to drop it back to last year's R&R rate,
Oh, okay.
or their R&R rate. And a lot of it is we put aside some funds for future firehouses. We'll drop that. I think it was around $50,000, $40,000, $50,000.
And figures you gave us 8.153 lowered to 7.663.
That is
Yes.
correct.
Yes, the mill levy.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
which is something you can do after you publish. You can always download, but you cannot increase.
Do you have any plans of publishing it for 10 days and putting it where you need it for 2023?
Don't have to,
Okay,
according to the PGA
okay,
reports and accounts,
all right. Thank you.
because we went down.
No more public comments. Close the public hearing on the fire district budget.
You think there's a motion to approve?
Yeah, we will need a motion to approve.
Well, there's
That two
two
budget?
comments I wanted to make. Okay. I guess I don't technically classify as public in this particular instance. So, no, it sure was a struggle for a lot of different reasons. Uncertainty in economic times, inflation, the price of everything that comes with inflation, the sizable need that we still seem to be out. And I think probably the most important one was taking care of personnel and staff. The fact that we were able to take all those attributing factors in and actually reduced our budget slightly. I know it doesn't meet the so-called R&R, but I think it was commendable what we were able to do, given all those other circumstances. We're not going to leave any of our departments kind of left hanging if inflation continues to grow and the cost of gas, the cost of materials, the cost of resources, the cost of vehicles, so on and so forth. We have a little bit of flexibility, and as things come down, it would be appropriate as we look to 2024 and 2025 to maybe be able to make some further reductions based off of that and maybe get ourselves closer along the way. So we're set up well, not just this year, I think, but actually for the next couple of years as well, which I think is a factor we haven't probably really discussed in this very, very elongated process this year. So I just thought it was important to point that out. I know some other entities have struggled very mightily to keep that, but I think, understand where we're at. And I don't think we asked for more, even with personnel. I don't think we went above and beyond. We tried a very measured approach to try to keep us where we needed to be. And I think that'll prove beneficial moving forward as well. So I think overall, I'm comfortable with where we're at with this.
And hopefully some of those dark store amounts will be resolved this year, because that could make a big impact next year and years beyond. So hopefully that will work in our favor.
Okay. There's comments, we can take them up.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve and sign the 2023 Riley County Budget Certificate as published in the amount of $80,637,504 and the Special District Funds Certificate totaling, it's like here, it's like 1,000.
Actually, that's
Oh, there's an extra comma in there, yeah. $1,160,000 $483.
Yeah, I would second that.
Been moved and second to approve the 2023 Riley County budget and the special district budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Signed, commissioners. 3 copies.
Greg?
Greg.
And we'll get the letters out to the appropriation groups.
We have separate motion for the appropriations. Listed here.
Yeah, it's listed here.
You only gonna talk for 3 minutes. I just can't believe it.
It probably wouldn't hurt since it's listed here on the agenda.
I'm teasing.
You see that, Commissioner Board? That's the next tab down. For the appropriation amounts.
You mean the outside?
It's
Yeah.
all the agencies.
Yeah, that was the first.
That's more of an informational. Yeah.
Yeah.
Second. Gotcha. 15.
They'll be glad to get their letters and stuff. Second, the only one we changed last year was the pension.
And that was because of personnel, right?
Right.
Go up or they go. What?
Went up. Not yours specifically, but everybody else.
Yeah, I think the ATA bus went up to.
We got it back down. They wanted more.
Yeah,
It went up more than last
it
year.
was more than last year.
So we do need to make a separate, is that what?
I would, I think it's beneficial. They understand with the appropriations.
Okay, so I can pull it back down here. Okay, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the 2023 Riley County Agency appropriations as listed below in the commission action report.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2023 agency appropriations as listed. All in favor?
Aye.
It's time for press conference, Commissioner.
Scott, you're up first. Yeah, yeah.
Good morning. I'm Scott Hyde. I'm lieutenant with the police department. Just got a few things to let you know what's going on here coming up. Tomorrow night is the National Night Out event in City Park that runs from 5 to 7. Members of the police department, the Riley County Fire, EMS, Manhattan Fire Department, Fort Riley Emergency Management will all be out there with emergency vehicles and personnel. And the department will actually also be serving hamburgers and hot dogs. So we hope to see some families out there. Again, that's at City Park from 5 to 7 tomorrow night. We continue to increase our traffic enforcement in areas that have been seeing problems, primarily the intersection of Highway 13 and Tuttle Creek Boulevard, right there where the intersection with the dam is. There's construction there, the speed limit is lowered, and we've been increasing our enforcement out there and increasing our strategy of looking for traffic violations that cause accidents and focusing on those violations and explaining to the public why we're focusing on those violations. Since those are what cause accidents, that's what we're trying to reduce. So that continues. And as of October 1st, we have opened up our community satisfaction survey. This is something we do every couple of years. And it's an opportunity for us to see what the public thinks of how we're doing. And that assists us in planning for our future plans that we do in new planning cycles each year. So currently this is on the department's website. It's on their Facebook page. And eventually we will have business cards that actually have a QR code on the business card where the public will be able to scan it right off of there. We'll have things printed up and posted in public locations around town so people can just scan it right there and take a few minutes and take the survey. Hopefully we'll find out some information that'll help guide us moving forward. And that's about all I have for you. If you guys have anything for me. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for approving our 2023 appropriation request. Good timing. So I used to say we are heading into our busy season, but now we don't have not a busy season. So I'm just going to say we're heading into our very busy fall season. If in case you did not attend the final third Thursday event, it was extremely successful. I know, John, you were there. It was a lot of fun. It was great weather finally for our third Thursday event. And we had open container for the first time ever. And it was extremely successful. We had 0 issues. So really happy about that. DMI's office is moving from the location that we've been in for 8 years in the 300 block. We're moving down to the 400 block. Unfortunately, our space is not ready. There are no doors, so we can't get a certificate of occupancy. So we are currently homeless indefinitely, I guess. No, I think it'll be about 2 weeks before we can
anything.
If I show up in your office needing to use your Wi-Fi, please let me. We have our annual fundraising event. It's the one and only one that we do for Downtown Manhattan Incorporated. A lot of people don't know that we are a nonprofit organization, and this is a big one for us. And it's our annual Plates and Pours, and it's a tasting tour of downtown. It's where you get a ticket to go around and try from 13 downtown restaurants, food, locally made food, and craft made cocktails and beverages. We have 2 new participating establishments this year. One is Arrow Cocktail Lounge, and the other one is like Crew Coffee. So that'll be fun. We have a few tickets left, so if you're interested in getting a ticket, it's downtownmhk.com. Another fun and interesting addition to the downtown lineup this fall, although it's not our event, we are helping out with logistics and whatnot. The pumpkin patch, which is traditionally held at Seco, is coming downtown to Points Avenue, similar setup to the way Points Avenue, Purple Power Play on Points used to be staged, and that is being held on October 15th. And it is a one-day event now, and that is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we'll see how that goes. There'll be some vendors on Points Avenue and some vendors located within the mall. So it'll be a both indoor and outdoor event, and it'll go on no matter what the weather is. All Treats Day and the Boo Party with the mall is on Halloween this year, October 31st from 4 to 6. And we encourage families to come out and walk around the district and into the mall and get lots and lots of candy. And it's a fun event, safe event. The K-State Homecoming Parade is on Friday, October 28th, and that will travel down Points Avenue. I'm not sure what their route is with the Aggieville construction. I just know that they'll be downtown and they will travel down Points Avenue, and they'll probably end near City Park. I mean, that's what we're talking about doing for the holiday parade. So I would assume that it would be very similar in nature for homecoming. And that one starts at 5:30 on Friday. So there will be several impacts to parking in and around the district this month that you should just be aware about. A couple of them close the streets entirely. So just read my emails and pay attention to that and pass it along to your coworkers and patrons and family and friends. That's all I really have, except to say that today is the saddest day because it's the day the flower baskets come down. The happiest day is always the day the flower baskets go up. I think we are supposed, they came down, Kansas Magazine came down and took photos this year of the flower baskets. And I think they're supposed to be on the cover of a magazine. So that'll be exciting if that ever does come to fruition. Everybody loves the flower basket so much. So a large portion of the Riley County appropriation goes towards those flower baskets. So you should love that. Any questions? No?
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Gina.
Welcome. Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Play some pours.
Morning. This may become more relevant come Friday if the temperature does drop, like they're saying it might. But we're going to be doing a program on mulching plants for the fall and winter season. That will be on the same day as pumpkin patch. So if you remember, Saturday, October 15th, is that right? All right, so that program will be at Bluebill Nursery. They'll be hosting that 10 a.m. for the mulching program. In case you can't come out to that, I'll give you the quick answer. Wood chip mulch is very good choice. There's lots of options for mulching plants, but wood chip mulch, as it deteriorates or breaks down, will provide nutrients for the plants. So that would be a score for being a good choice over maybe a stone type of product, but there's different options out there. So we'll talk about your options. why it's important. It's going to hold moisture in if it does rain. So this helps hold the moisture that could be available for plant growth. And it's good to do it now, this time of year. We're looking at moderating the soil temperature, so we have good root development here in the fall. So the soil temperature can stay around 50 degrees for a while. We really see some good root development, whether it be trees, shrubs, even some perennials. And some of our tender plants are going to need that mulch to get through the winter season. Typically, freeze-thaw cycle heats the soil, roots may get damaged. So if we put a layer of something over the root zone, that'll help alleviate some of that stress to the plant. Some of us still grow hybrid tea roses, and those typically aren't necessarily totally winter hardy. And so if we bound up some wood chip mulch over the crown of that plant, 4, 6, 12 inches deep, you're going to get a little bit better return probably next season. So, and if you grow strawberries, once the soil temperature is 40 degrees, 3 inches below soil level, it's the time to mulch your strawberries. Historically, we just say Thanksgiving to Christmas. That's a answer to remember, but scientifically, 40 degrees is the ultimate time to do that. So again, Saturday, October 15th, 10 a.m., Bluebill Nursery Garden Center. We'll talk mulch. Last thing, you get free mulch at the transfer station. They had a big pile last time I was out there. So for free, mulch your plants. Oh, thank the Master Gardeners. They were in the Ogden Parade last Saturday, handing out bulbs and a few rain gauges. So enjoyed being in that community. And hopefully it's not freezing on Friday because we're supposed to be at the zoo doing an activity outside. So
It won't be, it'll be 60.
okay, 60.
It's good.
That's better than 80.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, they are saying it's gonna get down that 60 on Friday and low 60 Saturday. Low to mid 30s for low.
Oh, really?
Did not realize that.
They're saying not a freeze, but a frost.
Frost. Let me just say,
It's kind of cool at nights too.
Generally means a freeze at Pro Holler.
Hell.
How you doing, sir?
Good yourself. Come back.
Yeah, okay. I didn't have the agenda in front of me. I didn't want to go too soon because I'll get yelled at. Good morning, Commissioners. David Adams, CMS Ambulance Director. I'm just here with our monthly construction update. So for North County EMS Station, the contract between the city of Leonardville and the county has been signed and will be completed pending the passing of the conditional use permit, which will be before the city council tomorrow evening. In Leonardville. So John Ellerman and myself will be there. So I'm sure you're going to be there, Commissioner. And Craig will be there as well. Okay, so we'll all be there for any questions that they have. So I did go around door to door as I had told yourselves and the Leonardville City Council that I would do. So there were 14 homes right in that area, and I was able to speak to the residents of 11 of those. So I even went back one other in the evening to try to catch a couple others, and it just nobody was home. But it went really well. Very, very good feedback. I did have one gentleman ask why we didn't offer to buy his land and where his house is. That way we could have the corner lot. Said I didn't know it was for sale. He said, well, if the county wants to buy it, I'll sell it. So I told him I'd share that with you, but he also shared with me that we pay more for it than what we paid for the empty lots. So
you should occasionally come on.
but I had it went very well. I had good conversation with some residents and such. So, but no concerns were voiced for it, but a lot of positive about the ambulance station being up there. So. Otherwise, the survey has been completed and was sent to us late last week to John and myself. So we are having some internal discussion, and it'll come to you here in the next couple of weeks. The architect really believes we should do a geotechnical survey of the soil there prior to building of the station. He's asked for 3 bids from companies. When we talked last week, he received 2. But I told him that was a decision that's above my pay grade. So whether I'm sure we'll probably just bring it to you would be my guess, and see how would you like us to proceed with that. So, there's been no costs associated. Upcoming, as I said, a conditional use permit meeting, and then the schematic work design is slated to start this week. So that was from an update last week from the architect. Any questions about that North County station? Okay. All right, the Riley County Public Safety Headquarters. The current status is we continue to work through the statutorily required process for the construction manager at risk. You will receive the request for qualifications document on Thursday from John Ellerman for review and any adjustments that need to be made, and hopefully an approval. And if the adjustments are small, then he's hoping he'll get that out Friday. So the contract for design services has been reviewed by Councilor Holman with some modest modifications, nothing real significant. It's been sent to Archimedes for review. It's my understanding that the architect is on vacation right now, which is the way it always works. So, but we should get that back from him pretty quick.
That'll be in front of you Thursday.
It will be, okay. There we go. So we're slowly making progress. We're getting there. So costs associated paid, none since the last update, but my understanding is there are some pending. So we'll get those to you as soon as we get those, obviously. So that you're aware. And then upcoming, as I said, the statutory requirements. And then once the contract for design services has been finalized, the design will begin. So, and my understanding was about 6 months for the design. And the question that I don't know, and I don't, is I'm sure they're doing some design work now before the CMAR gets started. I don't know if they'll be able to do that till we get the CMAR hired, or how that's going to work. So any questions? Okay, we'll keep moving along.
Right there.
Thank you.
Else, I don't need. The business commissioners. Okay.
Go ahead and make a motion that we adjourn the October 3rd meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
We moved in second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone have a good week.